I think I might be addicted to underwater filming. Yeah, I have a problem, because I took a look at my hard drive, and not only was it almost completely full, but it had tons of unused underwater footage, including time lapses, lost bite footage, and interesting fish behavior. Also, the description of this video has a link to my underwater playlist, where you can find all the other underwater videos from this channel. And if you like underwater footage, fishing tips, and more, click subscribe. So we're gonna start out strong with this lost bite footage. And this is from 2023 when I was trying to make a part 2 for my power bait underwater video, but I hurt my knee, and then I just completely forgot about this video. And then when I looked at this footage, I didn't even know what the baits were that I was using, other than that bottom bait is the pink power egg, and they're just going crazy for that. They just love that. That top one looks like a trout nugget or maybe a marshmallow, but they're going up to that pink power bait like every time. So what was cool was these minnows at the bottom. They are really fun to catch because if you put anything bright and shiny down there, they're gonna go check it out. And that one even tapped that power egg a little bit. So those are definitely a food source for the trout. So this guy's batting around the pink, and then the other trout came up and hit the first bait and then hit the second. I couldn't even tell which fish hit that, honestly, but that was a completely lost underwater strike there. So I'm glad I found that. And I believe that's a salmon egg on the bottom there. And look at this guy, just so quick and active. Just spit that out and then took off. And then, and then he came back. But then his buddy wasn't there, so he had to take off again. So this is a shot of a trout getting hooked, but it was just too far away and you couldn't see the strike. But it was hooked on that top bait, which is a gulp minnow, and that bottom bait is a silver type of power bait, and it leaves all this dust behind when you reel it up, and it attracts the fish. You can see this guy's like digging down for that dust, or it's digging for something, I'm not sure. But multiple fish were just going down to that area over there and just digging down at something. So I think it was all the scent from that bait, but they never ended up hitting it, I don't think. At least I didn't see any footage of it. So here's some footage that was actually from 2025, and there's so much algae that you couldn't see it very well, but that was a bass hitting a worm, a night crawler that I had on a drop shot. And it was a pretty small bass. It was like 12 inches or so, but that was pretty cool, except the water was not clear enough. So the water clarity makes a big difference, and also the sunlight. So in this clip, I think this was from 2022, so this was from a while ago, and you can see that shade creeping in. I hooked a huge trout. You can kind of see it in the background there, and I hooked it on a fly, but you couldn't see the strike, you couldn't see the fly, so I kind of just forgot about this footage too. But that was a huge trout. It was probably like a 3 or 4 pounder, and it just kept on fighting and fighting. It would just come in and then it would just whiz back out, and it was peel and drag, kind of like a carp or something. It was really fun, and it was on an ultralight rod, so that was super fun too. It was just on a bubble and a fly, so just a fly on a spinning rod. So here's some footage of the release, and it was really hard to hold the camera straight because I could barely hold that trout with one hand. That was a really nice one. It's probably like 20 inches or so. All right, so here's some reactions and fish behavior that I found on the hard drive. And this one doesn't look like anything at all at first. But then this happens. A giant bass just comes right in front of the camera in perfect focus. And then right behind it, another one just creeping in. And you can tell they're different because they have a different coloration. And they're slightly different size. That first one was a little bigger. And you can see a trout going by in the background there. That's a decent trout. And then a bluegill. So that's 3 species that went by that camera, and I probably just didn't think anything of it because it was so green. Oh, and here's a shot of this bubble that I got a hit and I got a fish on, but you couldn't see the strike. So I probably didn't think it was worth anything. But it's a really cool shot of the bubble, and I think that's a really fun part of using a bobber, is just seeing it dart under. So here's a shot of some bluegill, and I just threw a worm down like 12 inches off the bottom there. And I don't know if it was the way it was rigged up or just the way the bluegill were feeling, but they were not feeling that worm. They were not interested. So that's probably another reason I didn't use it. You could see a huge trout go by at the top there. But yeah, they were just running around and I sped that up a ton. There's a big trout. That was a tank. Just rocking by. And they always come up and check out the camera too. But yeah, I sped this up quite a bit. Sped it up like 10 times or 50 times. Turned it into like a little time lapse. But I thought that was a cool shot anyway, because you can see that a bunch of fish saw that worm, but none of them wanted to eat it. This guy went up and thought about it for a second, but was not interested. So I think I switched it out at this point, and I put down a piece of shrimp in hopes that maybe they would want that more. And this is when a really crazy sequence happened. So one of those giant trout just comes straight in at that shrimp and grabs it and chews on it, but I was not paying attention at all. I think I had my rod in a rod holder, and I was really kicking myself when I saw that footage because that was a huge trout. And that was my only chance at it, I think. So here's a shot where there was a bunch of algae, so I got a lot of unusable footage here, but this was pretty cool because they were close enough that you could see really well. And I think that was on one of my newer GoPros because it looks super nice. And they were just going up and this guy just grabbed the end of that worm, but did not get hooked because that was way too small of a bluegill. I was trying to catch a bass, but the bluegill are always a problem when you're bass fishing. At least that's my experience. You gotta have like a big enough hook and a big enough piece of worm. That looks like, yeah, it's another worm. And then this bluegill's just coming straight up to the camera. They're so social. There's a little bass down here. This was a funny thing that he did. He looked like he just yawned. You see that, how he opens his mouth? Let me know in the comments if you know what he's doing. I think he's maybe eating, but it looks like he's yawning. So here's another clip that I found on the hard drive. And I think this was the early spring because the water was so clear. And you can see these 4 bluegill just come straight up to the camera. And look at them, they just look like a happy little bunch, huh? So they were just hanging out and chilling and just running around. So I threw a shrimp down there, I guess. That's what it looks like. And they were going up and looking at it. And they were kind of interested, but it was just a little bit too big for them. I think I was trying to go for trout, because trout usually have bigger mouths and they can actually eat that. But these bluegill, they just look at the size of that guy's mouth. It's like half the size of that shrimp. So there's no way he can even eat it. See him just grabbing it and just tasting it? He's just grabbing it with his little bird beak. He's just pecking at it like a little chicken. So he can't even get it. So I didn't get one hooked on it, but that was a really nice shot. And the water was super clear. This turned into a really cool time lapse right here, where you can see that vegetation at the bottom just swaying and pulsing like that, and the camera was really stable. So that's really important for having a time lapse, is having your camera stable, because even if it's just bumping up and down a little bit, it won't look good if you speed it up. It'll look kind of wobbly. So I found a lot of really cool still shots that I turned into time lapses, and we're going to take a look at a few of those now. Starting with this one, where the water was just super clear, but there weren't any fish around. But I really liked the way this sunbeam on the bottom just moves across, and the water is just such a pretty blue. So this was above the surface on a little tiny creek, and I thought that was just a really nice shot, really stable. And I also got the underwater view here. And because there was some current, it kind of shook a little bit. But there was a lot of activity going on the bottom. So you can see like those 3 little fish running around. And this was actually near the coast. So these were little salmon fry. And that little guy got spooked by that leaf. You see that? You have to look pretty closely. But these guys were pretty small. I was hoping that a big salmon would go by, but it didn't. And here's a sculpin that's just sitting on a rock, so it's got a totally different behavior than those trout. So here you can see like some snails moving around on the bottom, and that was a bigger guy. That was like a juvenile salmon. And yeah, I just thought that was cool because the water was so clear. So this might be kind of unexpected, but I also have some cool night footage of some fish here. And you can see this bluegill just getting spotlighted. I have a really bright spotlight, and this guy was just blinded, I think. Or it was just asleep. I don't know why it was so still. But this trout was kind of reacting to it and following the light. So sometimes they'll do that. They'll kind of be attracted to the light. And I was doing that while I was getting my camera set up with a little scuba light that's going to turn on right there. And I wanted to put that underwater and just see if it attracted the fish and if I could see anything. But as soon as I put it down there, all you can see is just this cloud of all these bugs. And you can see that worm. That's a worm right there in the middle. But it actually looked really cool when you slow it down. It kind of looks like stardust or something. So even though I didn't see any fish or anything like that, I thought that was still really cool to see. This was like the middle of the summer, so I think there were just too many bugs in the water, and the light just reflected right off those bugs, so that was all you could see. So here's going back to that creek with the salmon fry, and I set up an infrared camera at night. And I just plunked it down for like 2 hours, and I just wanted to kind of experiment and see how it worked. And it worked really well. You can see those crawdads moving around and some snails on the right there. And when it's sped up that much, you can actually see the snails move, which I thought was cool. And they're pretty funny. They just kind of like run around, and their shells are so heavy that it makes them fall. So I never knew that about snails, but they're kind of clumsy little guys. They don't really know what's going on. But yeah, I'm definitely going to use that infrared camera again, because if there was a fish, that would look amazing, I think. So these last couple gems off the hard drive I found from 2022. And what I was trying to do here was I was trying to capture a salmon jumping out of the creek. And it was just a really pretty area. Like the scenery was just amazing with the ferns and the fallen logs and the water skippers. So I was really happy with this shot, even if the salmon didn't jump. But I did end up capturing like 3 of them, so you're going to see those in a minute here. But they're right out by that fallen log. You're going to see a big splash. And I actually didn't see it the first time, and I thought I had missed it, but then I watched the entire file and I saw it. And there it was. And if you zoom in, if I zoom way in, you can see it come all the way out. And that was a pretty nice sized salmon. So I don't know if it was feeding or if it was just running. Probably just running. It looked like it was dark and it was spawning. So then I moved to another area and I set up the camera like right at the surface level, and this was an even better shot. It came out of the water. And let me know in the comments if you know what type of salmon that was. I couldn't really tell. So you can see all those waves coming from after it splashed. And then there's another one that jumped right there. And I zoomed in on that. And that one didn't come quite out of the water, but it was still a really cool shot. And I think I definitely could use that in a video someday. If not, it was still pretty cool to see in this video. So don't try to give me an intervention, because I'm sure to be back soon with some brand new underwater footage. And on that note, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.